Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Living with Annietude and the Zoo / Mike Paterano's house. I believe the children quite possibly may be asleep. There are no children here tonight, so we are in for a good time. Tonight we're going to talk about something very important in life called forgiveness. So hi Mike.
Here comes Sid.
We already have people on saying hi to us, I think. So in preparation for this evening, I looked up the definition of forgiveness just so I could,
You want to go back to bed?
Is this because we're live?
Probably.
Would you like me to wait, or should I go on?
No, she's putting her baby in the fridge.
Okay. I mean, I understand. So forgiveness is defined as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you. So let's just leave Sid be, and she'll just do what she does, okay? What are your thoughts on that definition?
Yeah, you found your sippy cup in the fridge. Great. So forgiveness is tough, right? Like there's another multi-level thing, a multi-layered thing. Doing my 4-step, going through the steps, everything else, forgiving, making amends. At the end of the day, it was all about forgiving. It was all about forgiving myself. And that to me has always been the hardest thing, right? And I always assumed that I forgive people, but at some point I really didn't, right? Like it was a surface level forgiveness. Because
so you said you forgave them, but you didn't really inside.
Right, because I still carried a resentment. I still carried the pain from it, or I still carried the guilt from it, or I still carried the anger from it, right? Because a lot of it is not only the person that you're forgiving, but there's a role that we play in that as well, right? A lot of times. So opening that door, brings in a lot of those emotions and the pain and a lot of those issues that we try to avoid, right? Because who wants to look at themselves?
Right. So I think that you took, kind of stole my thunder a little bit as the wonderful guest that you are, because the first thing I was going to say is in that definition, it says nothing about forgiving yourself. It's about someone else. And I think that that's so key, because I think that so many people carry around this lack of forgiveness for themselves. They don't, and people don't, well, of course I forgive myself. I'm not this, I'm not that. And it's like, well, if you really think about it, I mean, have you forgiven yourself for can you think of things that you haven't forgiven yourself for example?
Yeah. I mean, when I moved from Arkansas to Florida and left my kids in that circumstance, right? I hold that against myself completely. And at the end of the day,
why did you do that? Why did you leave? I mean, did you leave to go party, or what was your purpose for leaving?
I left to rebuild myself, right? Because I was in such a funk and such a hole I was just in a deep, deep depression and miserable, like literally miserable. And I knew that I couldn't be what my children needed me to be, right, as long as I stayed in that circumstance.
So if you stayed in that circumstance, you would have been not your best self. You wouldn't have even been a good version of yourself. So you did what you knew to be the best thing that you could do, correct? At that time.
Yes.
Okay. So
I did the only thing I could do at that time.
Right? You did the only thing you could do, so which makes me think that you did the best that you could do at that time. So my question to you would be, how come until you forgive yourself, David Pollock says, until you forgive yourself, you can't forgive anyone else. Well, what I was going to say to Mike was, it seems like you have an understanding around why you did what you did. So why do you hold that against yourself?
Because of the sequence of events that followed, right? And I felt like that was going to be the scenario. I didn't expect it to happen exactly the way it did. I didn't expect the extreme insanity that came from it or after it. I didn't expect to completely have my children removed from my life for an extended period of time because of it.
Right. So you didn't expect the backlash.
Right. And, I'm pretty good at expecting things, and especially expecting bad scenarios, right? I'm very good at that. But this one, I didn't see the extreme coming, right? So, and to this day, I still carry some of that guilt, and I still haven't fully forgiven myself. I'm just being honest, right?
Well,
Like,
I'm glad you're being honest. I mean, so the question is like, how do we get there? Because, there's things that I'm working through right now. And I've reached a point of forgiveness for a lot of things that I've done. But I think that a key point is like, you're not letting yourself off the hook because you forgive yourself. It's the same as with another person. You're not letting that person, you're not condoning. That's a big word that I always use. You're not condoning the behavior. You just are saying, I in that moment, I couldn't foresee the future and I didn't know. Hi.
That's you.
that's you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's you. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go back? Okay. Can I go back to this now? Thank you.
So,
You're supposed to be in bed, Sid.
I think that,
No?
we forget where we are in things and we think, oh, I could never forgive myself for that. I'll never forgive myself for that. Or, but you're looking at it, first of all, as hindsight, knowing what's going to be. Second of all, you stayed sober during that time, correct?
Yes.
After how many years? What, like 11 or 12 or 13 years of,
Yeah,
okay.
and that was just the last event, right? So let's look at it from that way too. Like, staying sober through everything that I went through with my soon-to-be ex-wife, that is a miracle in itself, right? Like, purely a miracle. That's way beyond my own control. Because I should have easily have probably went back at some point.
Well,
But
actually, it was you turned your will over, so it was you allowed it to be where you gave your will over to some sort of higher power or something that allowed you to have the strength to stay sober. So you did that. So maybe a little credit would be good. Maybe a little self-compassion and some credit that you overcame that would be good. Right?
and I am, right? Like, I'm proud of myself that I did, but I still hold it against myself for allowing it to get to that point throughout the whole series of events over the course of those 9 years. So, yes, I've forgiven myself for a lot of those instances, but as my children are still dealing with the ramifications of it, I find it hard to completely forgive myself.
Right. I understand that.
And as there are so many unknowns still involved with my circumstance and where I'm currently sitting, it makes it harder.
It's easy to let that linger, I think.
Right.
It's sort of just like it's a constant reminder of, look what I did.
Right.
But I think what you're doing in not forgiving yourself is you're staying stuck in that place. And I think we do that sometimes where it's easier to say, oh, I screwed up so bad, that's why we're here. But you're not where you are because of that decision.
No.
Right?
No.
There's a lot of different moving parts here.
There is, and most of them are outside of my control, right? So I understand that I'm aware of all those factors. Like,
Right.
It's not that I'm not self-aware, and it's not that I'm not self-aware to say, being here right now was a full conscious decision to come and get my kids out of a horrible situation, right? So I'm proud of myself for doing that, and I made the right decision for doing that. Now, beyond that, yes, I still hold that stuff against me for leaving in the first place, but it also wasn't an option at that point. I was so down and out that, it really wasn't an option. I had to get out of where I was, or I was never going to be the person I should be or could be.
What are you afraid of when it comes to full forgiveness of yourself? What are you afraid of? If you forgive yourself fully for leaving, what's stopping you from forgiving yourself?
I think on some level, right? Like, I know myself well enough, and by holding on to that a little bit, it still stays fresh in my mind. And
so I don't be honest.
Yeah, and I don't want to take it for granted, and I don't want to forget what I did, right? So I want to be able to still feel that anger and tension and frustration, and I know that it's not 100%. No, I'm alive, baby. No. Stop throwing things at me, please. I want to be able to I want to be able to forgive myself, but I also want this resolved first, right? I want to know that there's a resolution that is in the best interest of my children before I fully let go of that.
But here's the difference. Here's what's sticking out to me, just being an outsider and looking in, is what does one have to do with the other? Why? I understand you keeping yourself honest. I get that. But why does one stop you from the other? You're going to get through this. You're going to get through this. I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be, but you're going to get through this. And then is it okay to forgive yourself?
Of course it is. And it's healthy to forgive myself, and it's a much better plan than what I'm currently going with, I promise you. But and I'm self-aware of it. It doesn't mean that just because I know it, I make the right decision, right? So it's a process also. And I don't hold it against myself as much as I did before I made this decision to come here and get them out of.
So you're in the process.
Right. I'm still processing everything, right? I mean, it's still pretty fresh. I mean, it's a 2-year-old decision. And what my children went through in that 2 years is a lot to process, right? It's a lot to handle, and I'm still dealing with the ramifications of that with them on a daily basis.
And you're going to be for some time.
I agree.
So where does acceptance fall when it comes to this type of stuff?
For me, I accept it. I just haven't forgiven myself yet. So it's that thin gray line of full acceptance versus full forgiveness. And I'm still not at that place where I'm fully forgiving myself. Yes, I fully accept it for what it is. I know that I didn't really have an option, because if I would have stayed there, I would have been useless to them. It's just a reality. But at the same time, I still don't fully forgive myself until there's a resolution with my current circumstance. I just can't. I need that resolution for closure on it.
Right.
Which sounds a little bit insane. But.
No, it doesn't sound insane at all. In fact, it sounds quite normal. I just guess I wonder, where do the two intersect? And do you really have that much control over whether you fully accept versus fully forgive? And it seems like you have them really compartmentalized. So I'm just sort of wondering, like, how when, I know you're self-aware as a human. I'm just wondering, like, are you kidding yourself in this? Or are you just saying, I don't?
I feel like, as I'm juggling, putting shoes on, because she needs shoes. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just fooling myself. I mean, honestly, maybe I'm just kidding myself, and I have zero control over that whole aspect. And by me letting it go, I'll immediately forgive myself. Maybe that's part of it too. And maybe I'm just trying to control. Maybe I'm just trying to control the outcome or control my own.
Well, that's what we try to do, right? Isn't that sort of like a backup plan? David said the line is blurry. It's very blurry between acceptance and forgiveness. Because I think like you just noted, I think that we confuse the difference between, like I said before, condoning what went on or rolling over, so to speak, or we're letting ourselves off the hook for decisions and behaviors that we did or acted on. And that's not really what it is. I think it all comes back to present moment.
So let's flip it for a second. How do you do it? And you don't have to go into a circumstance if you don't want to, but just the same scenario. How do you do it?
It took a lot of time to rid myself of shame and guilt of decisions that I have made and behaviors that I had exhibited. Once I accepted that that's where I was, and I wasn't in the same state of mind that I am now, and I wasn't centered and in the present moment like I am now, I could more easily forgive myself for those behaviors. I knew that when I made certain decisions, I wasn't 100% me. I know now that there's nothing I can do about the things in the past. Hi. Hi. Hi, sweetheart.
I'm
That's
okay.
cute. There's nothing I can do about what's gone on. All I can do is be right here in the moment with you and talk about it and be the best person that I can be today and tonight when I put my head on the pillow and tomorrow when I wake up. I can be the best person that I can be. And no matter what, that's all we really have. So I think that we need to focus a little bit on the mindfulness aspect of it, that if we don't forgive, then we don't live in today.
Okay. And that makes sense, right? And I think maybe I'm deluded. Maybe I'm just delusional in part.
I'm not saying that. That's
No,
not what I'm
no.
saying.
But I think I am, right? And I'm self-aware enough to the point that I can admit that. I feel like maybe I just want to put pain upon myself, and that's an old habit, right? To where maybe that's just one of my old habits rearing its head, to where I want to feel pain because of what happened in that meantime to my
You
children.
want to punish yourself.
Right. I want to punish myself. So maybe that's what I'm doing, and maybe the healthy thing is to let it go and just accept it and forgive myself. So maybe that's something I need to work on.
So I don't know. Right. Well, you're not working on it right now because you've decided that you're not going to forgive yourself until after the situation is over. So you are trying to actually control things that you can't really control. And I think that does keep you stuck. But I think there are ways to get unstuck. And I think if you recognize the difference between condoning the behavior, rolling over, or saying, it's okay that you did this, it's fine. It doesn't mean that it's fine to accept or forgive yourself. Acceptance brings you to today. So I think today is kind of painful for you. That would be my guess. Today, like, you just sort of go through the motions, and where you are right now is hard, right?
Yes, especially at this current second. Yes.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
and so it's really hard to accept the past and forgive yourself if you're not really in the present moment accepting the now.
Okay.
Would
Makes
you
sense.
agree?
I would
Do
100%
you
agree.
agree? Okay. So, and as I do this with you, it's therapy for me too, and it's healing for me too. So I can sort of see where I am with things, and I'm growing so much in these past, and just in this past few months, just because I'm alone and I haven't been since I was 14 years old. So I am figuring out ways to cope and ways to not beat myself up and ways to become stronger and evolve, even though this is really uncomfortable for me. So I think that this is uncomfortable for me, just as to be analogous, just as you don't want to be in the present moment because it's uncomfortable.
Right. And I think, and that's part of, like, that's the whole thing, right? Like, we look for the different ways of avoidance and different ways to overly cope because we go to bad habits, right? And I think everybody does that in some capacity. And that's obviously what I'm doing currently. So obviously that's something I need to look at.
Well,
Because
I'm not like,
no.
trying to make you be in trouble with yourself at all.
But
I'm
that's
looking
not
at
what
it
I'm saying.
objectively.
But that's not what I'm saying. Like, I like to be self-aware and I like to resolve those issues, and I'm working on so many other issues. I might as well work on this one too, right? Like, I mean, what's the point of dragging it out?
But there's also, go ahead.
I feel like as many things as I work on, as many things as I try to improve, and there's always something new that's going to come up, right? And that's just the way it is, because that's permanent growth, right? Because if you're in that constant evolutionary state and you're constantly, baby, please stop. And I'm constantly in that growth phase, then I'm going to constantly be going through things. So I just need to go through them.
Why don't you take care of her for a couple minutes and I'll just talk about this because I have unlimited information.
Sounds good.
I'm a chatty one. There's a payoff and a cost to how we are all being about our past. David, I completely agree with you about there always being a payoff and a cost. So to me, forgiveness is a really, really hard thing to get to. And I wonder how many of us walk around not being able to forgive ourselves and not being able to forgive others, and where those two are interwoven. So I think there's a lot of very angry people that hold on to, you want to come on? All right, I'll send you a link. That hold on to a lot of anger. And I think if they reach the point of, hold on, I'm copying the clipboard so I can get him on. Hold on a sec. I would love to talk to you. So let's see what you got. Come on in, David Pollock. I think it's just a very, very deep and layered topic that, will be more fun to talk about if we have a guest on with us. So let's see if David pops on and what he would
I
like
resent
to
that
say.
statement.
Which statement?
That if we had a guest.
Well, we do have a guest. I mean, another guest, because David is apparently jumping on with me. But put your daughter to bed, and we will continue this talk. We have all night, so hopefully he will jump on. But I don't know. I think that I was, for a long time, I suffered from the lack of acceptance, and I tried to put pieces in different places so that I wouldn't have to deal with the pain of my life situation. And in doing so, all I did was prolonged the inevitable, which was the pain. So now I'm finally at a point where I can understand where I was at certain points in my life and accept that that's where I was. And I can help others to move the process along faster or work through that with them, because I have felt what it's like to be in both places, both in non-acceptance and non-forgiveness. And then now in a place of acceptance and a place of forgiveness of myself and others. So it's a really hard thing, because yes, Mike is self-aware, and yes, I'm self-aware. We're very empathic and emotional people. But just because you're first of all, most people think that they're more self-aware than they are. That's number one. Number two, I think that the real goal is not so much forgiveness, like, oh, it's okay. You're not saying it's okay. I think the real goal is getting to a place of freedom. And if you can get to a place of freedom, then really you are in your best centered, most present self, and you're free from the hello, David Pollock.
Oh, Mike, how are you guys doing?
Hi, Mike's not on. It's just me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very, 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 very well.
I'm excited that you're here.
I'm so glad to be on with you. I actually want to come on with you at some point. Oh, look
Now
who's
he
back.
comes back. Now he comes back because he got a little jealous there. I think he wanted to jump back on because it was me and you.
Yeah, it just comes down to who has the better bald head.
It does. It does. I would definitely not be the winner there. So, so did you have any comment on what we were talking about?
Yeah. So whenever you talk about forgiveness and holding something over yourself or holding over something over anyone else, it usually has to do with either a lie that you're telling yourself or a guilt that you're holding in. It really has, for me, whenever I'm in a conversation and I can't get off of something, I have to figure out, what lie am I telling myself? Okay.
Okay. So how is you mean you turn it around and say, why am I so upset about this? Like, what is this that's really bothering me here?
what about this? What lie did I tell myself to convince myself that there is an issue here that I'm trying to control? So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
My wife got a concussion. Okay. I'm a very angry individual due to circumstances in my past. And what came up for me was we have a health and wellness business, and what really has come up for me is an anger that she and is not able to work the business to her full capacity. Okay. And the lie that I told myself has been that her quitting her job with the concussion would give her the ability in 6 months after she quit her job to be able to deal with working with people again, and what she would go full on into the business after 6 months. It's been 2 years. So so part of me holds a lot of anger and a lot of guilt and very little forgiveness for the fact that she's not working. The payoff is that I get to be right in saying that she's being lazy, that she's being this, that, and the other thing, when really all she's doing is she's working to heal herself.
Right. So you're carrying those resentments, and it's really making you a slave to the whole situation.
Exactly. So what I had to do was look at it and go, my payoff is I feel like I'm in the right.
You're
The cost
vindicated,
is
right?
the cost is my relationship with my wife. Therefore, is it better to just let it go and go, you know what? This happened. This is where she is. She has to make the decision because there's nothing I can force. Because if I push, she's going to push back.
Well, let me ask you this, David. So what is your harboring this doing for you? I understand you're telling me it's you being right. How is being right feeling for you? Is that working out well for your life?
Depending on what it is right now, no. With this particular situation, it's whether right, and in all honesty, it doesn't come down to right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just living in the lie that she should be past this by now.
And trying to control that.
Yeah, and trying to control that. Exactly.
So here's a question, right? Are you mad at yourself? Are you resenting yourself for feeling it?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm always angry with me. That for me, that has been a constant state of being since the time I was 6 years old. And a lot of it has to do with things that happened when I was that young that I harbored and made kind of my own personal mantra and command up until now. So, for example, with what happened to me at that point in time when I was a kid, I really got my ass beat by my father because I shot him in the middle of the head with a dart gun. But the fact that he looked at me and everyone nods and goes, you probably deserved it. You shouldn't have shot your father in the middle of the head with a dart gun.
You were a little boy.
I understand that. And what got reinforced by that was that I'm wrong. I can't trust anyone because my dad, all he asked me to do is if I could go upstairs and grab him his belt. I didn't know what was going to take place after that. But when I went upstairs and brought down his belt, the brand new toy he bought me was broken on the floor, and he beat my ass.
So you felt shame actually after that, a ton of shame, and you carried that with you.
I was bad. I was wrong. I can't do anything right. But what that turned into from the time that happened to a mantra that I'd be doing great for a while, and then something would go perceived wrong. I would get punished, and then I would feel horrible about myself, and I'd go back to trying to do the right thing, and then self-sabotage. Okay? Give you a more updated example. I'm in my second marriage. My first marriage, my ex-wife cheated on me. Okay, after being married for 2 years. In my current marriage, after being married with my wife for 2 years, I started to lose my shit. And the way I was being, the way I was being with her was the same way I was being with my ex when she cheated on me. So finally, she looked at me and said, "We've been married for 3 years now, not 2, and I'm not your ex. Get off it." And that's all it took for me to get a different relationship. But I carried what happened in my past relationship to that relationship. The same way I carried what happened when I was a kid to the time I was an adult.
That's understandable. I think we all do that.
Right. We all do that. So I knew I was angry from the time I was a kid. I never understood the why. Once I got why I was angry, I automatically got my choice of how I wanted to be about something, and I could leave that anger in the past. I could choose to carry it and be that way every day, or I could just let it go and let it be in the past.
So there's something that you're missing here. So first of all, there's control, which is what you're exhibiting, being able to control the situation, because when you were a little boy, you couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is you're defining yourself by these moments. So you're allowing them. One of the first things you said, David, when you got on was, "I'm an angry person."
Mm-hmm.
You've defined yourself by these moments, when there's a lot of moments you could have in your life and look at. I'm sure you've had happy moments. I'm sure you've had fulfilled, exciting, thrilling, whatever moments. And
Absolutely.
Your choice, your control is to define yourself by the angry ones, right?
Because for me, that's what stuck with me.
But at this point, these years later, that's a choice, because you've acknowledged that they exist. You might not have accepted them or forgiven them yet, but you're still carrying it forward in your life today.
You're acting it. You're living it.
Yeah, I mean, you have taken on that persona based on your past, and you're allowing it to control your future. I feel like there's look, I've done a ton of work over the last 20 years of my life, right? And the first 6 out of the last 20 years were horrible. So, but then I did a lot of work to fix it, right? And I did a lot of deep work to get sober, which was still ending up being surface work. And then over the last few months, I've been doing really deep work, and I've accepted a lot of those things, and I've dealt with them, and I've forgiven the people involved in them, and I've forgiven myself for a lot of them. But it still has created habits that I work on every day. The difference is now I catch them a little bit more frequently, and I try to stop those habits. The current circumstance I'm still in the middle of, so maybe that's why I'm having more issues with it. But I do realize it's a problem, and it's something I need to address. I feel like you need to do a deep dive on yourself and process everything, and release yourself from those chains that you're keeping yourself in.
There's a component here that we're not talking about too, which is that you are scared of not feeling this way because this protects you. So you are protected by this anger because the other stuff is a way that you're not comfortable with. So you're actually comfortable in discomfort right now, I think, from what you've said.
Yeah. So like I said, anger is a normal state that for me, that is my comfort zone. You're absolutely right on that. One of the things I've worked on is recognizing where that came from and letting it go. I've definitely changed a lot over the past 4 or 5 years with the work that I've been doing in a particular program I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely not the same human being I was. And I still recognize the fact that that anger still comes up.
And that's okay. Like, what about the whole, like, it's okay. Like, Mike, it's okay that you know, maybe weren't your best self in certain decisions. Annie, it's okay that, you know, I spent some time making horrible decisions and they led me down paths with bad consequences. And it's okay that you were a sad little boy that was ashamed. And it's okay that you have been angry at your wife for this situation that you're in. And it's all okay. It doesn't mean that it has to continue. We can't be scared of forgiveness because it might put us in a place that we're not used to.
And the fact that you're still identifying yourself as that person is what worries me, right?
You're defining yourself.
You're still defining yourself as that angry person. And in all the months that I've known you, you're not an angry person.
It's not the vibe that I get at all.
At all. You're not that person. That's just what you use as your coping mechanism to define yourself in case you get angry.
Well, it's comfortable for him.
Right. So maybe it's time to embrace yourself as Happy David, Lucky David, Alive David, and sometimes you get angry.
Or just present, David.
What's that?
Just present.
Present to where I am, yeah.
Just here, right here with us right now. Not angry, happy, sad, pissed off, resentful. Just here.
Yeah, I get that. You know, being present in the moment is one of the things that I have been working on.
It's very, very hard.
Me too.
That's tough. And the other part too is like, we're works in progress. I always say this, but we are works in progress. So like, don't allow yourself to, like, I'm not defined by anything. I will not be, I mean, Mike and I have talked about this too extensively. Like, I cannot define myself by mistakes I've made and choices I've made and things I've done. They don't define me. I'm not happy Annie. I'm not sad Annie. I'm not resentful Annie. I am just me. And in all of my Annie-ness, I'm here and I've showed up and that's all I can give you. And I'm willing to get uncomfortable, but I won't stay stuck. I won't, because then it wins.
Yeah, I'm in the process of actually getting myself unstuck from a couple of things with the things I've been working towards and working.
Well, good for you. You're making effort. You're working. You're in progress. You're doing the work.
Yeah, I'm always in.
Well, I mean, everybody is, and here's another reality, right? Like if we don't allow ourselves to be aware enough to see that we're making these mistakes, then we're not really doing the work also. Right. So if we can recognize them, then we can address them. And if we can recognize them, then we're actually doing work to get there. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, like Annie said, we're all works in progress. If you're not a work in progress, then you're in stagnation. You're not moving. You know,
well, so every day is a practice, right? I mean, this is all a practice. We're not going to be in the big game soon. You know, like we're practicing. Life is a practice. Every day I try to be my best self. Am I my best self every day? Absolutely not. But every day I can try to be my best self. And that's my practice. My practice is to have a great Annietude every day. Mike knows, many people know, I don't always have the best Annietude, but I'm certainly going to show up and I'm going to try.
Actually, I love that. I just love that statement, Annietude.
Thank you.
It's fun.
I try, you know, it's interesting that you say that. It is fun and it is catchy and it does go with my name, but it is also, and Mike and I have talked about this before and the other podcast, is like, it's a way of life, you know, like I just can't stay stuck. I can't allow myself to stay stuck in decisions and outcomes and things that are yesterday and a year ago and 5 years ago and 10 years ago. I am right here, right now, because David, that's all we have.
Yep.
That's all we have. Truly, this moment. That's it. And so if I live and breathe with a good Annietude, it's to know that I'm right here, right now with you guys. And I'm healing and being healed as we speak through these talks and these conversations.
Got it.
Does that feel okay to you? I'm so excited you jumped on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm one of those people that if you give me the opportunity to jump on, I'll jump on. Mike knows.
I appreciate
Saw it a
it.
couple times with Gabriel. Yeah.
Mike,
So-
do you have anything to add?
So, okay, so David was making comments, and I'm curious. That was a weird look. I'm curious.
Because I thought, okay, truth be told, I thought there was a bug. So I sort of like have like a panic attack when I hear something. So I was just like looking. That's what that was.
Okay. Anyway, a bug. Okay. So I feel like, so where is that gray area for you, Dave? Where that forgiveness and acceptance line? Because you were making good comments about it. And I'm just curious, right? Like, I know that there's many things in my life I've accepted. I know there's many things in my life I forgive myself for, and I'm still trying to identify why this isn't one of them. Because obviously I need to do work on that. Because I can't just carry that around, right? I don't want to carry that crap around anymore.
So for me, what it comes down to is I love my wife because she calls me on my shit. We were both graduates within the same program. And one of the things that she'll do is if she overhears a conversation or she overhears how I'm being with somebody and she sees something that I do not, she'll look at me and go, "You know you said this, right? What's the payoff that you get from being this way with this person? And what is it costing you in the long run?"
So was it useful?
Yeah, exactly. Was it a detriment? You know, what was the purpose behind what you said? What was the payoff of it? So was I right? Did I get the financial aptitude I needed? Did I get the approval I wanted? You know, what did it cost me? Do they feel like that they can't deal with me anymore? Do they feel like I'm an annoying pain in the ass? You know what I mean? It's just there's a payoff, and a cost to everything that everybody does. You know, and it changes. It's everybody has them. Everybody has a racket that they run. My rackets, I'm angry.
Well, that's
You know
a
what I
bunch
mean?
of shit because I don't think you're angry. So I'm going to call you out on it like your wife does. I don't
Okay.
think you're this angry David.
Let me rephrase that. The racket that I used to run
Okay.
is that I was an angry chef. Okay?
And what was the payoff of that?
Of being the angry chef,
Uh-huh.
always being right. What was the
So
cost?
being angry makes you right?
And when I was running a kitchen, it didn't matter. Yeah, I was right no matter what. It was my kitchen. When I said something needed to be done this way, that's how it had to be done. There was no room for that conversation, and that anger helped to run
fuel
things
that.
in the direction. Right. The cost though was that I never got very close with any of my cooks. I got into fist fights with my cooks, that I've worked with. I have alienated multiple people in my life, and
That's your self-sabotage at work. So that's
right.
you, that keeps you stuck.
Yep, that keeps me stuck. So when I was that way, that's where I was. In fact, at one point in time, before doing the program that I did, I was ready to leave my wife, quit my job, move to Colorado, and then I realized that I still had to deal with me.
Yes,
that
we would follow you to Colorado and you're still wherever you are now. You're
Yeah.
going to be there
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So I did this program and it has changed me a lot. My
That's really good.
conversation, yeah.
So if that's the case, then why did you introduce yourself as Angry Dave? I'm just curious because I feel like that's your mental, your go-to and your defense mechanism, right? I feel like that's not the reality and you know it, but it keeps you safe.
Yes and no. Here's why I say that. Yes, it's a definite defense mechanism. It keeps people away from me, and the more they ask questions, the more I shut down, the more quiet I become. No, because I now realize it. and I don't always catch myself with it. And
Do you know
when
why?
I get called on it, I can sit there. I sit there, go, okay, I get that. Yeah, I gotta let that go. I gotta get off that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
We've decided that you've stayed stuck, correct? And you're staying stuck and you have to get unstuck, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Why, what are you, why can't you get unstuck? What's keeping you stuck? Exactly. It's not the anger.
No. And
What's
it's actually like it's the known hell being being comfortable and not wanting to be in an unknown heaven.
well,
You know, there's a fear associated with that.
you're exactly right. It's fear.
You know,
So what's
and
keeping you
fear is
stuck
false
is
evidence
fear.
appearing real. So
What did you say?
fear, false evidence appearing real, coined by Zig Ziglar.
Yes, we love Zig. So your fear of the discomfort of because of the unknown of not being angry is really scary because you can expose yourself to hurt. And you protected yourself since you're a little boy from the incident with your father. You protected yourself with anger. So as a cloak around you so that you wouldn't be hurt anymore.
Right.
And if you, the let it go thing bothers me just because I can't, it's so dismissive. Like saying that is saying to your child, like your little self inside you from when you were a kid, like let it go. Like that just is the most dismissive way of getting through something. Like, how about that sucked that you went through that? That sucked. And I feel bad for that kid and I'd like to give him a hug. And you know what? It's okay that that happened and it's okay that you carried it all through this time and that you've made other decisions
Right.
and other paths, and that's okay. But you don't have to define yourself by all that anymore. You don't have to have the fear of the unknown because there's life on the other side of this anger. There's living.
Yeah.
There's being in the moment because
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck in the past, right? You can't be in the past and in the moment at the same time.
No, you can't. And all I'm working towards right now is putting my past in my past and keeping my future a blank slate.
What about now?
My future is a blank slate. It's whatever I make it up to be.
But what about right now?
My future is a blank slate. It's whatever I decide to make it up into. You know.
So are you present in this moment?
Yes.
Is it uncomfortable to talk about what we're talking about?
Because it's taken me so long to answer, it's got to be a little bit, you know, and it's also comforting in the same regard.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
be
I'm
understood is
good for an
scary
interesting
and-
conversation.
What did you say?
I'm very good for interesting conversations.
Yeah, I mean it's funny and interesting and weird and strange to me that you can feel so good when you're understood, but it hurts so much.
Well, it's one of my friends put it the best. He would look at me after every time we would do a seminar together. He would look at me at the end of it and go, "You know that armor has a few more nicks in it. I can actually start to see your face behind that shield."
And how did that make you feel?
Well, he got the auto response all the time of, "Fuck you, no you can't."
Right, but how did it really make you feel? Like, was that scary? Oh shit, I gotta lock up again.
No, it was more of, okay, time to adapt.
Adapt. I don't know what that means. What do you mean by that?
For one of the things for me that I've really come to realize is that whatever situation I walk into, I will adapt to. So that way I can either hide what I'm feeling or protect myself or those around me.
Those are your two choices?
That I choose.
What about feeling what you feel?
I've definitely been down that road too.
Okay.
So for me,
And
literally that's draw the cloak and bring out the shield. You know, that's what that triggers in me.
that I think that that's all about your fear of the present moment. And
Well,
and the
you're-
present moment can be really scary to be in it. To not be in the past, to not be in the future is really scary sometimes. So I have a lot of empathy and compassion for that feeling. You're not alone. So
Oh, I know.
So through this, I just realized something, right? The reason I'm holding on to this pain and the reason that I'm holding on to this and I refuse to forgive myself and I refuse to accept it is one, I'm ashamed, right? So I'm holding on to that shame. Two, I'm terrified of the unknown. And this I can control, right? I can control being in this state of holding against myself. But because obviously using the excuse as the outcome, I'm still slightly scared that I don't know what the outcome will be. Even though based on my situation, I know what it should be, but it's not a guarantee. So I'm scared for that. Rather
Sure.
than accepting that fear, I'm still carrying this pain against myself, holding it against myself, because it's more comfortable than it is to let it go, live in today, be
And be
proud of
scared.
myself, and be scared, but be proud of myself for doing the steps I did to get back here and get them safe. Right. So I feel like that's why I'm still stuck on this. And now that I realize that I'm letting it go, I'm done. Like I'm going into this because I'm not carrying this crap anymore. I'm done carrying crap. Like I don't need to carry crap. I have enough crap. Like I don't need to carry it, right? And I've been hard on myself long enough. And truth of the matter is, just because the outcome is unknown officially doesn't mean that it isn't pretty much known. It also doesn't mean that I have any control over it either way.
Well, that's the point, is that
Right.
your control of the situation isn't changing the outcome.
Right. So I need to just let it go. And I need to accept that whatever I did. What, Dave?
The only control that you really have in this world is control over you. You know, I had a very interesting conversation the other day with someone who is very into conspiracy theories and everything else, and I'm looking at her going, you can only control what's around you. You can't control all this other crap that could be true or may not be true. It doesn't matter because is it directly affecting your life where you are right now? And the truth is, what she was talking about was not that. Had nothing to do about where she was now, but it was easier for her.
Repeat that again, what you told her to do. I want to hear that advice again.
My advice to her was concentrate on what's going on around you now because you can't control all this other stuff that you're watching on YouTube, whether it's true or not.
Interesting advice.
You can only control what's around you.
Did you ever give yourself that advice?
Multiple times. In fact, I work on that every day. It's one of my mantras.
Okay. So it comes back to the present moment, right? And I'm sorry that I interrupted you, but it was just so interesting to hear you giving that advice to someone else when
While I'm struggling with myself. Yeah.
when it's the hardest thing to do is to look at ourselves and give ourselves, I could give advice till I'm blue in the face. Doesn't mean I'm always going to be able to give it to myself and act it. When we can act it is when we're truly, truly healing.
By the way, my friend Dawn says this is an awesome conversation.
I'm so excited that she's watching. Hi.
Yes, so when I saw you were on, I kind of posted across Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Well, I'm glad you popped on. It was really cathartic. I think all of us sort of.
I'm glad Sid is growing. I'm glad Sid's growing her fan base.
Yeah, it's seriously.
I'm glad Sid is growing her fan base.
His daughter is continuing to grow her fan base. Unfortunately, or fortunately, all she cares about is Annietude. So.
Seriously. It really is.
That's what she says. She sees me and she goes, Annietude, Annietude. It's the best thing ever. But I think we can wrap it up by just sort of, I said this when you guys were, Mike was off and Dave, you were coming on, but I think at the end of the day, which is such a pat around thing to say of me, at the end of the day, I think that real forgiveness is freedom. And I think if we truly want to be free, then we need to work on forgiveness of others, forgiveness of ourselves, true forgiveness, not just saying, yeah, I'm over it, I forgive it, I let it go. But it's like, wait a minute. Did you really work through that pain? Did you really let it go? Did you really, because look, I've been in prison and I've been free. I don't mean really in prison, but like I've been imprisoned and I've been free. And I can tell you that they're very, very different. And I refuse to be shackled anymore by my past. So therefore, I am working through a lot of self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others so that I can reach true freedom, because I think that's where peace is. Do you have any final thoughts on that, gentlemen? It's a lot.
I'm working on that as well. I'll just agree with exactly every word for word, what you just said.
Wow. I've never heard Mike say that.
Good boy.
He knows where his bread's buttered.
Seriously. Some things you just don't question, right? Like, I mean, I'm still evolving. I mean, in this course of 57 minutes, it went from I'm holding this against myself to now I know why I'm holding it against myself, and to putting it out there for the whole world to see. And then just releasing it doesn't mean that it's fully gone. Doesn't mean that I fully, forgive myself or accept it. But at least now I'm aware enough to understand the why, and I can work on that. So it's just a constant evolution, right? I mean, it's just a constant process.
If I could call you out, because that's what I do.
Which one? Me? Again?
Mike,
yeah.
Real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to call you out and tell you that you were defensive in the beginning. And as Dave and I talked through some things, you began to accept your situation more. And you reached a much deeper level of acceptance than you started this conversation with.
Yeah, 100%. I don't disagree with it. I agree. There's things that are just, that I still carry on that I just need to let go of, right? And I've done a lot of that recently, and apparently I have a lot more to go.
We all do.
We all do.
Dave, do you have any final thoughts? You're such a great guest.
The hardest thing to do is to stay present. It's one of my favorite movies, Kung Fu Panda.
Dave,
yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future. Today's a gift. That's why it's a present. It's the only thing that we could really work with is where we're at this point in time, and it's just being aware of where our minds are and who we're being at that point in time.
I think that you're telling yourself this and teaching yourself this as we speak. So, and I'm very proud of you. I think you got on the call in a different space than you are right now.
This is more of a reminder of past work.
This is good though. This is good. So thank you so much for being on, and we'll do it again. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I definitely want to come on at some point as a guest for some of the other things I'm working on.
Well,
For sure.
Yeah.
keep in mind, you're only allowed to be angry Dave going forward when the Eagles are losing again.
Then you're allowed. But that's not
That's
going to
okay.
happen.
As long as Dallas is losing, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. My
And I
thoughts
agree with
exactly.
both of those, actually.
My thoughts exactly. So, boys, it's been real. Living with Annietude is alive and well, and we will continue this at another time. Thank you for being on my show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me on. Sorry, I didn't mean to take the spotlight, Mike.
No,
You're good.
we loved it.
It helped me. Are you kidding me? That